Joining me now, Maria Archila, who's one of the women who confronted the senator there. She's also the co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy. Good to have you with us today. It's hard to believe, again, that it's only been a week. What has this week, Anna Maria, been like for you? What's changed?
What has changed is that I have felt an incredible outpouring of love and courage from women across the country who saw themselves in Dr. Ford, who saw themselves in Maria and I in that elevator, who were inspired by the strength to continue to weave this fabric of stories that we're telling the country, stories that are becoming a mirror. What we're doing with our stories is trying to have the country stare at itself, look at itself, and ask, is this who we want to be? Is this who we want to be? And the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh is an tremendously important opportunity for leaders of this country, especially men in power, to say, I see what's happening here. I do not want to participate in reaffirming a culture that ignores women, that doesn't believe survivors, and that allows sexual violence and economic violence and political violence against women to continue. That's really the opportunity right now, and that's what has changed. A week ago, I was just telling my story and kind of trying to really embrace this part of my life that I had not wanted to really, that I didn't find a way to embrace. And now I feel incredible, both responsibility and fear that our leaders will not meet the challenge of the moment, but also tremendous gratitude for all the outpouring of courage that women are displaying.
You're trying to talk to lawmakers. You're trying to talk to senators. Senator Jeff Flake, one of 4 undecided votes at this hour. Again, only 2 hours to go until this procedural vote. What is your message to him this morning? What is your message to Senator Collins, Senator Manchin, Senator Murkowski?
My message is that they can be heroes. They can step into a role of profound leadership. They can say, I will not just simply line up behind my party. I will try to exercise my role in a way that allows me to really listen to people and to step to the challenge that the country is allowing me to have. I think that the reckoning that we're going through is here. The question is whether our political leaders are able to step to the challenge and use their political action to signal that we will not continue to make the same mistakes of the past, that we will not reaffirm a culture that ignores women, that ignores survivors, and that by doing that perpetuates that kind of violence.
Judge Kavanaugh, and I'm guessing you have read it by now, but releasing this op-ed, he wrote this op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, which was published late last night. And in it, he writes, I was very emotional last Thursday, more so than I have ever been. I might have been too emotional at times. I know that my tone was sharp and I said a few things I should not have said. I hope everyone can understand that I was there as a son, husband, and dad. It's important to point out he didn't say specifically what those things are that he said that he believes he should not have said. He did not apologize, but he really was going out there to make the case that he can be nonpartisan, that he can look at cases in a fair way, and that his outburst should not be looked at as how he will, in fact, perform his duties if he is confirmed as justice. What's your reaction?
I mean, we all have emotions. That's not the question here. The question here is, are you able to take responsibility for your actions? That is the question. He could have said, listen, I am so sorry that I was ever part of Dr. Ford's pain. I feel responsible for helping heal that pain by, even if I don't remember, even if I'm not sure of my actions. I have a role as a leader to demonstrate a different kind of behavior. So, of course, this is an emotional time. He should know how to behave in a hearing with members of the Senate. He has had a lot of practice on that. But really the question here is, are you able to take responsibility? Because the Supreme Court is a tremendously important terrain where we as a country make progress towards what we want to be, this more perfect union. What I was telling Senator Flake in that moment was the way that justice works is that you have to recognize harm, you have to take responsibility for it, and then begin to repair it. Someone who sits in the Supreme Court has to be able to do that in his or her own personal life, and that's essential to their ability to do that in that role as a member of the Supreme Court. And I don't think Brett Kavanaugh has stepped up to the challenge, not in his personal life and not to the country. So I'm not convinced that by his op-ed, and he's missing the point. He's missing the point.
There was a lot of talk about his reaction in that moment in the elevator, but it's not the only reaction that is getting attention on Capitol Hill there, because more and more people, more and more Americans are voicing their opinion to their elected officials. Here's an exchange with Orrin Hatch that I want to play for you.
Why aren't you brave enough to talk to us and exchange it with us? Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you.
When you grow up, I'll be glad.
When I grow up, how dare you talk to women that way? How dare you?
Anna Maria, where's the disconnect in the conversation these days?
That our elected officials do not have that much practice listening to people. We have a democracy that's very broken because they listen to lobbyists and corporations more than they listen to people. And this fight about Kavanaugh is really a fight about our democracy. I hope that the lesson that we draw from that elevator and from the encounter that you just played out is that in order to have a healthy democracy, it is essential for our political leaders to connect with us, to look at us, to not look away, to listen to our stories, to think about the people they love, and and it is essential for we, the people, to not allow them to define what democracy is. Democracy is not a spectator sport. We have to bring it to life every single day with our stories, with our visits to elected officials, with our marches, with our protests, sometimes with our angry outbursts when they don't listen to us, when they wave their hands at us. I feel very encouraged that actually people across the country are doing precisely that. We're overcoming some of our fears, doing things for the first time. Maria, who was there in that elevator with me, had never talked to an elected official. We spent 15 or 20 minutes before we saw Flake talking about how do you do that? And what I said to her was, just tell him why you're here. If we happen to see him, I did not think we would, speak from your heart. And it's what elected officials are missing in these moments is a human connection with the people they represent. They work for us. We need to remind them of that every day.
Anna Maria Archila, appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.